be irulao. Watch your back, the trench is gonna get you. Watch your back, the trench is gonna get you. Watch your back,
there's a
the trench is
giant
gonna
here.
get you. Watch your back,
It's a coming from the agility. Gotta wash those red hands. It's the crimes of the Badlands. It's the crimes of the Badlands.
Hi, Douglas.
Hi there, Julie.
How are you?
We're doing good here. Thanks. Yourself?
Good.
Cool.
Yeah. So,
welcome everybody to Crimes of the
Crimes of the
Basque
Basque, yes. And maybe actually we should also remind listeners what Crimes of the Basque Lands is.
True.
So we're taking any and all crimes that occur in the Basque Country or in the world where there might be some sort of Basque connection.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah. Exactly. The most tenuous connection is good enough for us.
Yeah. We'll take any connection.
And then we'll use that. We'll justify it in a nice Basque way.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And if any listeners have any story ideas, they can always write to us and
absolutely
suggest stories.
Yeah. I guess I wasn't.
And even for mini crime time too, if they have a mini crime time they want to contribute.
Of course.
You can send us a voicemail or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And maybe we can put it on the show.
I was going to say it's kind of related to that kind of typical expression we have in Bilbao. I mean, it's more like a joke or rather than an expression, but there's a joke where somebody goes up to somebody else and goes, "So, have you seen the world map of Bilbao?" As in, Bilbao is so important. It's not only the capital. The world map is a map of Bilbao. And in that vein of thoughts, a crime committed anywhere could be connected to Bilbao.
That's true. That's very true.
So just tying it in with Basque things.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Everything leads back to the Basques.
Of course, it has to.
Okay, well, let's get into our story then. So first I'll start out with my sources for this story. I had articles from El Diario, El País, 20 Minutes, Diario Vasco, El Mundo, El Español, AITB, Noticias de Guipúzcoa, Casos Aislados, The Guardian, and of course, Wikipedia.
Wow.
Yeah, lots
Great
of sources for
Mm-hmm.
this. And then I wanted to also give special thanks to my ex-student that I've mentioned many times, Gisela, because she's a law clerk. I want to thank her for her help in researching, parts of the story or being very generous with her time and answering my legal questions.
That's lovely. I hope we can have her one day as a guest just to say hi. Tell us a little quick mini crime time or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay, so in terms of content warning, there is an account of an assassination of a political figure, so listen with discretion. So hang on to your chapella, Douglas.
Hanging on.
I hope at the very least you will find this story interesting. Because you're my main audience here.
Am I?
So this week I'd like to tell you the story about a tale as old as time. It's a drama about powerful, wealthy men scratching each other's backs by bestowing each other with quite lucrative favors.
Oh, right. Right. Favors.
Yes. But in this case, they were busted.
Okay, nice.
Yes.
Good.
I know, right? So they were busted for using their privilege and their connections to line their own pockets.
Classic
Shocking,
tale of
right?
intrigue.
Yes.
I mean...
Shocking they got busted, I think, personally.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, what's shocking?
It's shocking that they were busted.
Yeah.
Usually they don't get busted. So, this is my one-sentence synopsis for this story, okay? So, all hell breaks loose when three powerful men and well-connected men share the spotlight in the Basque courts and in the media, leading to their ultimate fall from grace.
Oh.
Okay, so this is the story of Kutxabank and the former politician Miguel Angel Cabieces Garcia.
Okay.
So my cousin.
Your cousin.
No, he's not my cousin.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe.
Hundreds of years ago.
Yeah. All right, so now I'm giving you this politician's given name, but I'd like you now to guess how he changed it for his public persona and how he's actually referred to in the news stories about his involvement in this case.
Okay.
Okay.
Is he a
So
politician? Okay.
So he's a Basque politician.
Hmm.
He was a member of the Socialist Party of Euskadi.
Mhm.
We remember Euskadi is the Basque country.
Mhm.
And a member of Euskadiko Esquerra,
Mhm. The Basque left.
the left Basque party.
Mhm.
So I guess they combine it. It's the how did they?
Yeah.
Anyway,
They usually run on.
they're together. They're kind of like a combined party
Mhm.
in this.
Okay, a lot of times they kind of keep their messages separate, but they present themselves jointly at an election.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
So oftentimes when he's talked about his party,
Mhm.
they combine the two.
Yeah.
These two
Okay.
parties.
So we know what's happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes they split up again, but yeah, a lot of times they just become one party eventually.
in order to have more clout and.
Wait, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you think he changed his name to suit this public identity and, as a politician here in the Basque Country? So, Miguel
Mm-hmm.
to...
Oh, Mikel, of course, is going to be
Yes,
his
I knew you would guess it right away.
Basquification.
Very good. I knew you would get it.
I mean,
Miguel. So,
there has been a process where people who were obliged to pick a Spanish name are free to pick another name now
okay.
after dictatorship.
Mm.
And a lot of people, were forced to be called, like girls had to be called Maria.
Yeah.
And Maria something,
Maria
and
something,
exactly.
And
so
then Jose something.
Exactly. So they wouldn't let you give Basque
For Mary and
names.
Joseph, by the way, for those of you who don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Religious types.
Yeah. So there's a tradition of doing that. There's a reason why people would do that, because I guess he's an older man and he wouldn't have been allowed to have
Go
a
by
Basque
anything
name.
else. Yeah.
So it's not 100% cynical, and it's quite a typical thing here. But let's see.
Yeah. I'd like to think that he just did it to get more cred in the Basque politics.
For sure. For sure. I mean, he's not very nationalist, because he's PSOE, you said, the party?
It's not PSOE, it's the Basque Socialist Party, which is not PSOE.
Oh, okay.
So PSOE is the national party, right?
Yeah, but it also has a Basque...
Right, so it's like the Basque counterpart of that party, I guess.
Right. Basque PSOE, then.
Right.
Is what you want to call it.
Yeah.
Sure. But what I mean is, even Pepe, which is the very unionist right-wing party...
Conservative party, yeah.
Yeah, they still have a Basque Pepe office,
Exactly.
Even though they're not nationalist at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, just clarifying.
Okay, so I'll refer to him as Miguel
Mm-hmm.
Cabieces from now on, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so first I'm going to give you some background on Kutxabank,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So now this is from Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
Kutxabank is a Spanish bank founded and based in Bilbao. It was officially created on January 1st of 2012 out of a merger of 3 Basque saving banks operating in their respective provinces. Bilbao Bizkaia Kutxa, known as BBK,
Mm-hmm.
based in Bilbao. Gipuzkoa Donostia Kutxa, known as Kutxa, based in San Sebastian. And Caja Vital Kutxa, known as Vital, based in Vitoria. So these 3 Basque banks were headquartered in the 3 capital cities of Euskadi.
Yeah.
Bilbao, San Sebastian, Donostia, and Vitoria-Gasteiz.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So those second names, as we've said, I think before...
It's a typical way in the Basque country you would say
the Spanish name and then the
Basque
name.
afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, so just some more information about Kutxabank. As of 2014, the European stress test measuring solvency in periods of credit crisis showed that Kutxabank ranked first in Spain.
Wow.
Standing out as the soundest financial institution. Kutxabank was considered the most solvent bank in Spain.
Nice.
Also ranking higher than the average European bank.
I wouldn't expect less from the Basques.
I know. Good for them. Good
Organized.
for them.
Very organized.
So now the word Kutxa
Mm-hmm.
in Euskera, what do you want to tell us what that translates to?
It's literally a box, but it's referring to your savings box.
A bank, yeah.
Yeah, a bank. Yeah, your
Your bank.
I don't know. Is bank a literal thing as apart from a?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking box. Could be bank because it's where you keep your thing, a bank of something.
Yeah.
Save things.
Yeah, and in my brain, it links to a safe, like a big box,
Yeah,
metal
exactly.
box.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it was in December of 2014 when the new president of Kutxabank, Gregorio Villalabeitia, filed a complaint with the prosecutor's office in Bilbao for, quote, alleged anomalies during the former president of the bank's, Mario Fernandez's tenure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The director of human resources, Fernando Lopez de Aguilas. Aguilas. He had given the new president a heads up that a one Miquel Cabieces had been hired indirectly for 3 years by the bank, but had not provided any services to the entity.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Upon receiving this information, he communicated these facts to the Bank of Spain, which in turn transferred it to the European Central Bank, which then requested that the current president of Kutxabank, Gregorio Villalabeitia, find out the details of this. Okay. So he performed an audit. And in the final report, he found that what appeared to be an increase in the payments by the bank to their legal consultants and representatives in labor issues.
Okay.
So
Gregorio is
the new president,
and he's investigating his own bank.
Under the watch of the former bank president.
Okay.
What was something that had gone on?
Yeah, in his previous tenure.
Yeah. So these payments were made in monthly installments for approximately 6,000 euros. They were made starting in 2012 and ending in 2014, ultimately totaling to 243,592 euros.
Nice little sum of money.
Yeah. So, this may not sound nefarious, a law firm raising their fees for providing more services to their client and invoicing them accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
But what raised alarm bells for him was that he could find no legitimate basis for the bank to be issuing these extra payments for these 3 years.
Yeah, basically no services. Yeah.
Right. So when he inquired further, he found that the bank had decided to dispense this, quote, income directly to Miquel by way of funneling it through the bank's external legal labor advisor, the law offices of Rafael Alcorta and Associates. Okay? Moreover, these deposits from Kutxabank to Rafael Alcorta and his firm were approved and directed by the bank's then president, Mario Fernandez. So he said yes to these increases in their fees. It
was approved by him. It was under his responsibility.
Yeah.
Mario's.
Yes, Mario.
Trying to sort these names out.
I know. That's why it's very complex.
It's already hard for me to follow. But there's a Gonzalo who's a current one, right?
No, it's a Gregorio.
Gregorio. And then Mario's the previous guy.
Yep.
And that's good enough for now. Oh, Miquel is getting this. Oh, he's the one receiving it.
Miquel was the one that was hired, right?
Okay.
Hired. Okay, so
air quotes there.
Yeah, I did air quotes. Sorry. I have to remember to let listeners know that I'm doing air quotes. So it appeared as though these payments were income for Miquel, and that Miquel was providing a legal service to the bank as a labor lawyer. However, upon further inspection by Villalabeitia, Gregorio, he could find no services that Miquel had actually provided to the bank over the course of this time that he was receiving pay. So what does he do? He smells something fishy, and I assume he wants his bank that he's now in charge of not to have to come under any scrutiny for this discrepancy, or a crime of misappropriation of funds, right?
Very responsible.
Yep. So he files a complaint with the prosecutor's office for investigation in December of 2014. So he'd just taken over at that point as well. Okay.
Interesting.
So they investigated. Okay.
Good.
So Kutxabank's director of the internal audit department, Roberto Moll, he confirmed in his report that from the end of 2014, he had found, quote, irregularities in the relationship between the bank and Miquel Cabieces. He questioned whether the amounts received by Miquel were actually payments for rendering services to the bank as a labor lawyer. Okay. He detailed in his report that Mikel had received monthly payments of almost 5,800 euros in advance for his collaboration with the Alcorta law firm. In addition to these monthly payments, Mikel had also billed the bank for expenses of a trip that seemed to have never taken place.
Oh, wow. You could have just actually charged a trip you took. Jesus, people.
Yeah, take a trip.
Right?
Why not?
Know.
Why not?
Save that money.
Go to France. Have some fun.
Yeah. Totally a business meeting.
Exactly. So what struck him as odd is that these monthly payments were being salaried to Cabieces, but it appeared as though they were for nothing in return, right? So he wasn't providing the bank with any services. Okay, so Roberto Moll was brought into the matter by the new president, Gregorio Villalabeitia, as a result of his learning about the relationship between the bank and Mikel Cabieces upon the departure of the former president, right?
Yep.
So this all came
still with you, Julie. Incredibly,
okay, good.
Incredibly.
Okay. So he discovered that this irregular liaison was only known by Fernandez, Mario, the director of human resources, and the general director. So nobody else seemed to know about this agreement or arrangement within the bank, right?
Right.
So he wanted the new president wanted Roberto Moll, the auditor, to analyze whether or not the employing of Mikel was actually legal. Okay.
Yeah.
So he apparently questioned the legality of his hiring because of this, quote, strange and, quote, irregular indirect contracting procedure of Mikel's hiring. Okay. So he found it strange and irregular because the logical thing would have been to just increase the amount paid to the Alcorta law firm who represented the bank, right? Or was their legal advisor, right?
Right.
But what happened was that the bank had decided to establish a separate channel in which the money being paid out by the bank monthly, always in the same amount, went directly into the hands of Mikel.
Yeah, that smells suspicious as hell.
Okay, so I'm doing my best here to keep this clear.
Let's hope everybody's with us.
So let's take a break, and then I'll introduce you to the three men who would have to answer for this crime. Okay.
Oh, exciting. Let's do that.
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
Okay, so let's find out about these three men that are going to have to answer, right, for this. First, let's find out about Mario Fernandez, the former president who's in charge of all of these, quote, irregular activities that were taking place at Kutxabank. According to Wikipedia, Mario Fernandez Pelaz was born November 4th, 1943 in Bilbao. Going to the very beginning. This is as far as I'm going to go.
I'm happy. Did he have a nice childhood, Julie?
Yes. He grew up on a farm. No, he didn't. He graduated in law from the University of Deusto in 1965. And since 1966, he has practiced as a lawyer.
Deusto is a well-known university in Bilbao. And they're well-known for having law as well.
Yeah. He's also a professor of commercial law at the business school at the University of Deusto. He was also active in politics. He was a member of the Basque Nationalist Party, PNV.
Yeah, PNV in Castilian.
And in March of 1980, he was included in the first cabinet of the Basque government after its restoration post-Franco dictatorship.
Nice.
He was chosen by the then Lehendakari Carlos Garaycoechea.
Right. The Lehendakari is the president of the Basque country.
He was chosen by him to head the labor department. And in January of 1982, Garaycoechea appointed him as vice Lehendakari.
Oh, wow.
So this appointment made Fernandez like the number 2 Basque executive and in charge of negotiating the transfer of powers with the government of Spain for the autonomous region of the Basque country.
Yeah, that was a very important time in history in terms of, they were coming out of dictatorship and they were getting back the autonomies and sort of, it's serious negotiations there.
Yeah.
Important things.
Yes. So he was right there at the table. So, yeah, at this time, the democracy in the Constitution of Spain has been secured post-dictatorship, and the formation of the autonomous regions were being established, and their terms with their rights and responsibilities were being negotiated with the Spanish government. So our main man, Mario, was right there, right?
Interesting.
Sitting there at the table with these agreements, making these agreements between Spain and the Basque Country. Garay Coechea resigned as Lendakari in January 27th of 1985, and was replaced in this post by Jose Antonio Arlanza, who was loyal to the leadership of the PNV, PNV, the Basque Nationalist Party, in September of 1986. Then there was a new political party that came about, led by Garay Coechea, called Eusko Alkartasuna.
Yeah, Euskal Alkartasuna. Yeah, very good.
So that he created this new party. At that time. So this was a split of these two nationalist parties, right?
Yeah. And for a little bit of context, PNV is the biggest party to date in the Basque Country by far.
And they've been in power for
a very long time. I mean,
I know.
Yeah, they were not in power for 4 years in Vizcaya, but other provinces have had other more variety in parties. The party, or sorry, the province with the strongest connection to PNV is Vizcaya, where we live.
Yeah.
Because here we've only had 1 4-year term that hasn't been PNV.
Yeah. And they're actually more conservative.
They're center right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're fiscally conservative, and they came more from a sort of conservative Christian movement in the Basque Country. That's kind of their vibe.
Yeah. When Mario left his post as vice Lendakari, when what was his name again? Garay Coechea resigned. He went to join this new party as well.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yes. And then he went on to head up the newly established party's candidate list for Bilbao City Council. Okay. So in June of 1987, it seems that his time at City Council was unsuccessful or unpopular.
Okay.
I guess he wasn't a very good politician.
But he was elected.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he withdrew from City Council altogether, or in politics altogether after that. Okay.
So what year are we talking about?
This was in 87.
87. Okay.
And currently he's not affiliated with any political party.
Okay.
So after that, he just kind of stopped being in politics altogether. I've given you all this background on Mario's political past to demonstrate how connected he was in Basque politics.
Absolutely.
Because I think it does influence how he goes about things as his career progresses. In November of 1996, the Basque government appointed him as a member of the Euskadi Arbitration Commission. What is that, you ask?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Let me tell you.
Arbitrating what?
I had to look into it myself. Okay, so it's the institution in charge of resolving competition conflicts that may arise among the institutions of the autonomous community and those of each of its historical territories. And as this position is so politically and economically charged, in the year 2000, his name appeared on a published list of possible ETA targets.
Right.
So what is ETA? Anybody that lives here knows what ETA is, but maybe our listeners don't. So I'll give you the Wikipedia definition of ETA for our listeners who may not be familiar with their significance here in the history of the Basque Country. So ETA, an acronym for Euskadi Ta Askatasuna.
Yeah, Euskadi Ta Askatasuna.
Translates to Basque Homeland and Liberty, or Basque Country and Freedom. It was an armed Basque nationalist and far-left separatist organization in the Basque Country, which covers a territory in northern Spain and southwestern France. The group was founded in 1959 and later evolved from a group promoting traditional Basque culture to a paramilitary group engaged in a violent campaign of bombing, assassinations, and kidnappings throughout Spanish territory, especially in the southern Basque Country, the part that's in Spain, right? Its goal was gaining independence for the Basque Country. ETA was the main group within the Basque National Liberation Movement and was the most important Basque participant in the Basque conflict. So, that's what ETA is.
Yes.
And so with this new position, Mario Fernandez was found himself on the list of a potential target of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
After moving away from active politics, he dedicated himself to private business. He came to hold the position of legal director of legal affairs and a member of the management committee of BBVA, another bank, right?
Another.
Banco Bilbao Vizcaya Argentaria.
Yeah, that's a bank.
Yes. So it's another of the largest banking institutions here and in the world.
It is indeed. It's very big in Latin America, for example.
And then it was after leaving BBVA that he joined Uria Menendez law firm in 2002. Okay. So I just want to give you kind of like a little side story about his time at BBVA. In April of that same year, he was involved, the year of 2002. He was involved in the scandal of the secret accounts of the BBVA bank that occurred when he was a senior bank official.
Okay.
The anti-corruption prosecutor's office requested that he be charged in the case. But the judge did not consider it appropriate, and in the end, he wasn't tried for these crimes. But I'm going to tell you what this was, background to that story. So in April of 2002, it was discovered that BBV, before they merged with the Argentaria Bank, maintained a secret account in the tax haven of Jersey for 13 years, in which it had deposited a package of the bank's own shares, which were later sold with capital gains of over 120 million euros.
Oh, yummy.
The judge in this case opened a judicial criminal investigation for possible crimes of misappropriation, corporate crime of document falsification, corporate crime of dishonest administration, money laundering, and bribery.
Was anybody sort of taken to justice?
I think so.
Okay.
But Mario did not.
He got out. Unscathed.
Yeah. He was there at another banking scandal.
He might not have had anything to do with it.
He was just getting his feet wet in banking scandals. Maybe.
Okay. It was his first banking scandal.
Maybe.
Okay. I mean,
Or the first one that came to light. I don't know. But yeah, he did escape those charges. So he wasn't tried for that. So that didn't stop him from heading up another bank. In July of 2009, he was elected as the new president of BBK, the savings bank here in Vizcaya, pre-merger of the three savings banks that make up Kutxabank today. He's considered one of the masterminds behind achieving the merger of Kutxabank.
Interesting.
He was appointed as the executive president of the newly created bank in 2012 when they merged. And that was a position he held until the end of 2014. Okay. So that's Mario.
Wow.
So shall we talk about Miquel?
Okay.
Let's get into Miquel.
Mario down, Miquel's next.
So Miquel Cabieces, or Miguel Ángel Cabieces Garcia. He was, when he was born in La Arboleda.
Oh,
we're back in the Valley of Trapaga.
Yes, Bilbao.
Yep, on September 23rd, 1957. Yeah, we've talked about Arboleda before.
We have.
Miquel, as he's now known publicly, like Mario Fernandez, also graduated with a law degree from the University of Deusto. And also, like Mario, he participated in politics. As for his professional career as a lawyer, I don't really have a clear trajectory. But he later testified that he hadn't practiced like courtroom law since 1990. But he did work as in an advisory capacity on legal matters throughout his career.
Sounds like a cushy job to me.
So it seems that his political career and professional career are overlapping throughout his life. He was a labor advisor for the Union General de Trabajadores, which is UGT, or the General Workers Union.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest, if not the biggest.
Yeah. He served on the board of directors for various companies and public entities. He's held various organizational positions in the Socialist Party of Euskadi and then Euskadiko Esquerra. So they've combined it here. PSEEE. Right? He was a city council member and then the first deputy mayor of Portugalete. And then from 1995 to 2007, he was the mayor of Portugalete. Okay.
Getting to know our neighbors.
Yeah. Portugalete. Anything you want to say about Portugalete?
It's a very picturesque neighborhood. I mean, it's its own municipality. And as you were saying, they have their own, they have their own mayor. But it is connected by metro with Bilbao, and it feels like a suburb from here. But yeah, no, it's beautiful. It has an old port with gorgeous architecture and a very famous bridge, the Portugalete Bridge, which is a hanging bridge. What is a hanging bridge? Well, look it up, Anna. Look it up because it's pretty hard to explain. But it's a crazy looking bridge. We definitely recommend it. It's a UNESCO World Heritage, that bridge.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's quite a fun visit.
Yeah. Okay, so he was also a member of the General Assembly of Vizcaya, which is the highest legislative body of the province and historical territory of Vizcaya. So also very well connected.
Very, yes, clearly.
So after leaving the mayor's office, he became a government delegate in the Basque Country until 2012, when he was replaced by Carlos Urquijo.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was in 2012 when all this shady business with Kutxabank all started, but more about that later. And finally, it was in 2015 when he officially dropped his membership with the PSEEE, the Basque Socialist Party, and the left-wing party. After all this, monkey business with Kutxabank came to light, and he was being investigated. So it appears that he left the party because of some perhaps not so subtle encouragement from party leaders.
Sounds appropriate. Yeah. In politics, you get dirty, you smell bad.
You're going to have to go. Okay, so shall we take a break before we get into our third and final defendant?
That sounds,
in this case,
sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's take a break. Okay, we're back.
We're back.
All right, so now for the final piece of our puzzle, and the third defendant in this case, Rafael Alcorta. His career and life are not as publicized, aka he doesn't have a Wikipedia page.
Okay.
So I'll share with you what I do know about him from my online searches, okay? Like his co-defendants, he also has a law degree from Deusto University.
Wouldn't you say that?
I know, right? Shocking. I should add here, like you had said before, Deusto University is the most prestigious law school in Spain. It's the oldest private university in the country, and it was founded here in Bilbao by the Jesuits.
Oh, I didn't know it was famous outside the Basque Country, but it's nice to know.
It is, yeah. He's been a member of the Colegio de la Abogacía of Vizcaya, or de Vizcaya, College of Law of Vizcaya, since 1982. In 1990, he established his practice on Mazarredo Street.
Downtown Bilbao. Very nice streets.
He's also a member of the public body of the Autonomous Community of the Basque Country, whose purpose is to promote dialogue and conflict resolution between the social part, the workers and the unions, and the business part in the world of work. Okay. It's also an advisory body to the Basque Parliament and government for matters relating to social and labor matters.
Nice. Good to know.
So this man's also well connected and right there at the table, right? With these very important decisions they're making
with
in
banks,
politics.
with government, with big companies.
So in 1998, he established Alcorta y Abogados, which is Alcorta and Associates, I guess if it's a law firm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he moved his offices to the Albia building, which is Jardines de Albia,
Yeah.
like right near the courthouse. So he was considered one of the 5 best labor lawyers in the region, which I suppose garnered him a contract and a working relationship with BBK.
Right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So you'll recall BBK was the primary banking savings institution here in Vizcaya, pre-merger with the other Kutxas. So post-merger of the 3 Kutxas, creating Kutxabank, he remained on as their labor advisor and participated in the labor negotiations for the bank. Okay,
interesting.
So that's it. That's all I've got on him in terms of his professional career.
Sounds like
so
an
all
interesting.
3 of these men, lawyers, all involved in politics in some way or another. Maybe not Rafael Alcorta so much,
right?
But in a way, because he's also dealing with the unions and making these deals with the business world, and then
absolutely
the social
banks deal with business and owners and workers. It's all connected.
So the preliminary proceedings began in February of 2015, At this time, the bank held a board of directors meeting to decide whether or not they would be part of the prosecutorial side of these proceedings.
Okay.
So it was the new president of the bank, Gregorio Villalabeitia, who had brought the attention of the courts to this case after all, right?
Yep.
So the board decided that the bank would not take part in this capacity at these proceedings.
Okay.
So they wouldn't be part of the prosecution.
Interesting.
Okay. So they, from what I read, it seems like they felt that all this went down under different leadership. And as it stood, the bank was actually still being run the same way that Fernandez or Mario had left it. Right. But they wanted to overhaul the operations under the new leadership. And they didn't want Kutxabank to be associated with this type of, misappropriation type of crime.
But like, what I thought you meant, they don't want to be part of the prosecuting.
Right, because I'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the prosecutor's office, the judicial office. Other people can also be part of the prosecution.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you about that.
Okay.
Among those who were summoned to appear were the two of the men who have introduced you to, the former president of the bank, Mario Fernandez, and the former government delegate of the Basque Country, Miquel Cabieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were ordered to testify on March 12th and 13th of 2015, along with the testimonies of Roberto Moll, who was the internal auditor at Kutxabank, and the head of HR at Kutxabank, Fernando, I forgot how to say his name, Lopez de...
Eguilas.
So after these preliminary proceedings, it was decided that they would, in fact, indict and charge Cabieces, Fernandez, and Alcorta with some crimes. Okay.
Interesting.
So in its indictment, the Vizcaya prosecutor's office deemed that the three defendants acted, quote, through mutual agreement, unquote, and had caused economic damage to Kutxabank.
It sounds like we're understanding that together. I'm agreeing.
They requested a sentence of 2 years in prison and a 6,000 euro fine for each man for the crime of unfair administration and the crime of falsifying a commercial document. Alternatively, the popular accusation, in this case, requested a sentence of 3 years in prison for each for the continuous crime of misappropriation, along with the crime of forgery in a commercial document. Additionally, they requested that during the time of their sentence, they would be disqualified from working in their respective fields. So in the case of Mario Fernandez, he would be barred from holding a position as either like an administrator or to sit on any board of director for any commercial entity.
Right.
And for Miquel Cabieces and Rafael Alcorta, they would be banned from practicing law during the time of their sentence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, just during the time. Okay.
Yeah. Just the time of their sentencing. Yeah.
I mean,
could
be more than that.
Yeah, right? You think like, come on, you guys
could give them a 5-year ban,
or disbar them permanently.
Yeah, I would like that.
Yeah.
Well, it depends how grave the crime was. I mean, and it seems a bit redundant. It's like he can't do these jobs while he's serving time. It's like, really, you have to say that?
Yeah.
And then it's like, if he goes to jail for 2 years, he can't practice law for at least 2 years.
Right.
I mean,
is
as
he
if
going
he
to
was
anyway?
gonna.
Exactly.
If he was, that would be ironic. Yeah, my lawyer's in jail. Yeah.
Maybe while he's in jail, he's helping out other prisoners by giving them legal advice.
I mean, that is reform, right? That's you're reforming yourself there. Yeah. You're actually helping real people. Maybe that's the only time he's allowed to. Anyway.
So you might have noticed that I said the Vizcaya prosecutor's office had requested one sentencing, right?
Yeah, there was 2 years and then
2 years
public.
And then
I don't know what
6,
it means.
And then there was the popular accusation. Yeah. Right. So what is that? Right.
Yeah. What is it?
Well, let me tell you.
Learning about the system.
I know. Yes, I learned a lot about the system. Okay, so this is a procedural figure that allows public participation of any citizen in justice. It constitutes one of the ways to appear in the judicial process as an accuser. The other two ways are the private accusation and the public prosecutor's office. Okay, so Article 101 of the Criminal Procedural Law establishes that criminal action is public and that any Spanish citizen can bring it even if they're not directly affected by the crime.
Mm-hmm.
It's also regulated in Article 125 of the Spanish Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So who can exercise popular accusation? Any physical or legal person who is a Spanish citizen and enjoys full civil rights may present themselves voluntarily in popular accusation.
So not us, Julie.
No. Well, I guess not, because we're not citizens. No, we're not citizens, so no, we can't. We can't. It can only be used for public crimes, for the defense of society and legality, but not in private crimes or in military criminal proceedings. So isn't that interesting? And remember when I went to that
It's a shame the military get out of it.
Yeah, I want to be there.
Go on.
I want to be there. When I went to that trial, one of the things that I was kind of surprised by was that there were several different people on the prosecution side, and they represented different parts of the how should I say? Like, they represented different entities, I guess.
And yeah, I
like
guess.
One was for gender violence laws or something, you know, or you know, so like there was,
like political
there was
parties.
There was the prosecution, the prosecution's office of Vizcaya was there, but then there were also 2 or 3 other lawyers that were representing different entities for that case.
Interesting.
As part of the popular accusation, I guess.
That sounds very healthy. If they're listened to.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I guess they're given the same weight. No,
I don't know.
They were all given the opportunity to question and request what sentencing they thought was appropriate. You know, so they're all part of it. Yeah,
it sounds healthy. I'm liking the idea.
I found it very interesting. Yeah,
I do like it
because not like that in the States.
No.
Okay, so the popular accusation in this case was representing various unions. Okay. So it was headed primarily by the labor unions LAB and ESK, LABESK.
Right, which are
pretty big
unions. Yeah.
But included other unions such as STEE Elias, or STEE hyphen EILAS, EHNE, and HIRU.
HIRU.
Yeah. Also being represented was the social organizations EKA, Basque Association of Consumers and Users. And the last one was the Euskal Herria Pensioners Platform. Okay, so all of these people were being represented by the popular accusation.
Okay, so it's under one
so
umbrella.
It was like all of them kind of combined to be
sure
part of the prosecution in this case. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So because Kutxabank is a somewhat public financial institution, these unions and social organizations that made up the popular accusation felt that this was a public crime.
Indeed. I think they get some sort of public funding for certain things, which is why they're considered sort of public. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that.
In these preliminary proceedings, the 3 defendants requested a outright dismissal of the case.
This is absurd. We're upstanding law.
Yeah. And especially they wanted a dismissal, especially because Kutxabank didn't appear as one of its prosecutors.
It's an interesting point.
It sounds like some lawyer was like, "Listen, you guys, we can just ask for a dismissal because the entity that you've supposedly harmed isn't actually here accusing you of anything, right?"
Yeah. It's an interesting situation.
Yeah. However, the court decided to proceed with the trial, which formally accused the 3 men of having acted in coordination to pay Cabieces a salary that represented an economic loss to Kutxabank to the tune of 243,000 euros. Okay. So the trial would eventually be held in February of 2017. So these preliminary hearings took place in 2015.
Okay.
So let's go to the trial. The trial, at the outset of the trial, the labor union LAB, LAB, who was at the forefront of the popular accusation, held a rally in front of the courthouse in Bilbao with the slogan, "No to fraud." Okay. You might remember these demonstrations happening around town during the trial because I remember this. I remember seeing like a lot of demonstrations in front of like the Kutxabank on Gran Via.
Oh, right.
when I was researching this, I was like, oh yeah, I remember
right.
that with all these, for several weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm scratching my brain. It's not saying
No,
anything.
but maybe because you probably aren't on Gran Via that much, and I was
yeah.
there because I was walking to work.
Yeah, Gran Via for our listeners
is the main
is equivalent to the British High Street
or Main Street in America.
The Main Street in America, exactly. And it would be the Gran Via, the Great Way. So it would be lots of cities have a Gran Via, and Bilbao, Lopez de Aro, isn't it? That is the name, isn't it? Gran Via Lopez de Aro is not the same thing?
I don't know.
Anyway, we have one.
Okay. No, but I do remember there being a lot of protests in front of the bank. Okay, so at the trial, which lasted 3 days, what do you think these men used as their defense?
I think they were all in Dubai for 3 months, and they have photos of them in this 7-star hotel the whole time, and they have to be in.
That's where they were?
Yeah.
When all this went down?
They were in Dubai eating caviar.
Mario was not running the bank.
No.
Raphael was not in charge of his law firm.
I mean, he was on the phone,
Yeah.
I guess you could commit a crime from Dubai as well, right?
Yeah. Easy.
If these guys have to specify you can't be a lawyer whilst you're in prison,
yeah,
I suppose you could be a lawyer from Dubai. I can't. I can't think of. I mean, these justifications to me always sound ridiculous. So
yeah.
I could come up with anything ridiculous.
Well, they did try to defend themselves.
Okay.
So we'll get into that. Should we take a break though before we do?
Let's do that
before we go to the trial. Okay, let's take a break.
See you guys soon.
Okay, we're back. Okay, so let's start with Mario Fernandez, our president of the bank, right? According to Mario, he was contacted by, quote, a high-ranking individual from a political party and 2 others from another organization or political party to try to find some kind of job opportunity for Mikel Cabieces, but not a paid position, end quote. Okay. So he didn't publicly name any of these people who contacted him with this request, obviously. But what do you think he meant by not a paid position? Like, not a legit job? Not like a job? Like a job, but not a job? Right?
I mean, think about the poor lawyer. He just came out of law school 30 years ago. He needs some training, right? He needs some, what do you call it when you're like making coffee for the guys?
Like an intern?
Exactly.
He needs an internship, at the bank.
Just to prove
making coffee for the guys.
Just to prove.
That's what interns do.
He knows. He knows what's,
Unless you're an intern in the Basque Country, then you're required to be to do the actual job of the position that you've been hired for, but you're being paid as an intern. Yeah. I
mean, clearly not, because this guy is right?
No, not in this case.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the case here.
That's why I was being ironic.
Yeah. They weren't looking for an internship.
Mm-hmm.
So he went on to say that this was common practice for people in a situation like that of Mikel's as an ex-delegate leaving politics. He insisted that at all times his actions were about finding and giving him a job and not about paying him for services that were not going to be provided. He went on to say that he was willing to help out Mikel because it was his social duty to protect and assist those who've been on the front lines, politically speaking, of the fight against terrorism.
Oh my gosh. That is
This is his defense, okay?
One-sided. Sure, I'm listening to this.
So at this point, anyone who's from the Basque Country or lives here knows that this is a reference to ETA, who I told you about at the beginning of the story. So at this time, I won't be going into ETA at any length, but for the purposes of this story, as it pertains to part of his defense, I'll mention what he had said at the trial, okay? So in his testimony, Mario brought up the story of a former civil governor of Gipuzkoa, Juan Maria Jauregui, who'd had a similar position, political position as Mikel, Upon retirement from that position, the Spanish government posted Jauregui to live in Chile. It was when he returned to Guipúzcoa for a holiday or vacation, and without his bodyguard, who usually accompanied him, that he was shot and killed while sitting at a cafe in Tolosa, which is a small town near San Sebastián, Donostia. So Mario Fernandez was using this story to bolster his cred, that he was just trying to fulfill his civic duty to help Miquel out with a job. Okay. One article from El Español stated, quote, Fernandez assured the court that his actions were motivated by the socio-political context of the Basque Country and the unwritten rule of collaborating in the return to civilian life of those who've actively participated in the fight against ETA. So, that's his defense, or part of his defense.
Sounds very odd. Coming back to civilian life? Where were you, in prison? Like,
yeah, I know.
I mean, surely you were a government officer.
I know, it sounds like you were dodging bullets.
Or that they were, like, you know, posted in Chile fighting ETA. I mean, come on.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. That was his try. Not impressing Douglas. Just saying that.
I can see that from your face. For listeners, Douglas is not impressed.
I'm not impressed
by his face, I can tell. Additionally, it seems that some bad blood resurfaced during the trial and in Mario's testimony. So according to an article in El País, Mario Fernandez was replaced as the president of Kutxabank when he fell out of favor with PNV, the Basque Nationalist Party, the conservative one that's been in power for a long-ass time.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Due to his commitment to bringing in new investors into the bank, whose only shareholders at the time continued to be the three savings banks from the merger of BBK, Kutxa, and Vital, which were now converted under his leadership into banking foundations. Okay, so I suppose that the politicians and the unions that, you know, because a lot of times these political parties also have unions support and right. So I think they had an issue with him, therefore they replaced him, because the bank was now becoming more privatized as a business, less of a public institution, because as savings banks, the Kutxas were as a savings bank, that now this is some information I got from my friend Natalio. Saving banks are required to reinvest into the communities that they serve. Okay.
Yes.
So that's what my friend Natalio gave me. That's the information he gave me, like the difference between a savings bank and then like a bank.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I know of I'm not going to remain unnamed Kutxa that a great part of their giving back to society is, and you'll recognize this when I tell you, do you know the sort of schemes that you have that are, you know, very typical of many Kutxas, which is like, deposit 1,000 euros here and you'll get a free pressure cooker.
Yes, I can't tell you how many things we have.
So all those things, they are counted.
That's what they're counting
as giving back to society. Yeah. So I'm just saying.
I believe it. I totally believe it.
Surely that's marketing. And people are looking at me going,
Okay, so additionally, as part of Mario's defense, he claimed that he'd made good on this discrepancy in the books at Kutxabank, i.e. the money paid to Cabieces in exchange for his services as a labor lawyer. Okay? So when this was brought to Mario's attention by the new president and the board of directors, like when they found this little discrepancy in the books, he immediately wrote a check to Kutxabank on January 13th, 2015 for 243,592 euros.
What an efficient gentleman.
Out of his own pocket.
I mean...
Yeah. First of all, this guy's minted. Like, if you were asked to write a check for that amount, it would take me a lifetime or months. Well, it would take me a lifetime or a few lifetimes to write a check in that amount.
In the sense that even if you don't have that, you could ask for loans in months. That's what I meant with months. Okay. Like, I don't mean like...
Damn, Douglas.
No. I mean, again, I could sell my apartment in months and then use that money. But I can't get to 240,000 though.
Yeah. So yeah, he had the cash on hand, wrote a check on the spot.
How nice.
So he had thought that he'd satisfied the new president and the board of directors by resolving this issue by throwing money at it. But he was sorely mistaken, because only 18 days later, Villa the new president, or Betia, no, Villa would denounce him before the Basque prosecutor's office and start this whole shit show. So
I'm going to say that was a good decision.
Yeah. I'm going to say that these two guys didn't have... I have a feeling they wanted to take him down. Regardless, he tried to throw some money at it. Like, oh, no, guys, come on, let's just forget about it.
Yeah.
And he tried to just go, here's the money.
Clearly.
Don't ask about any more questions. Don't do anything about this.
Clearly.
And then he was like, nah, I'm going to take this to court.
But even the substitution of him as head of BBK sounded like it was political. So, it's all...
Yeah, it was definitely.
Levers
It sounds like the political parties have a say in who becomes the president of these banks.
Oh, they do,
right?
though. But they definitely do.
Yeah.
Like BBK.
Which is kind of strange to me, but I don't know if that's...
That's why it's a semi-public institution, though.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly giving money from your pocket shouldn't be a part of it.
Yeah.
It's just not... Like, how could you
in a
justify
way,
that?
He's admitting...
Yeah, he is.
By giving the check to them.
Yeah.
There, right?
Yeah.
Like he knew what he had done.
Yeah.
Was not cool.
Yeah.
And was fraud.
It sounds like it.
Was defrauding the bank. Yeah. So. Yeah.
I'm with you, Jules. I'm with you.
Okay, so in his testimony, he explained that there were certain lines he wouldn't cross in providing this, quote, job for Mikel. One of which was that Mikel would never actually hold a position at Kutxabank. So he didn't want him to be working directly with the bank at all.
Which is true, because it doesn't seem like he did anything.
No. No. But he did what he could to find him something. Okay? So he also stressed... I
want to find a job where I don't need to do anything or get a salary.
No shit, right? Isn't that the dream?
Even if I don't get a salary, it's like, I work full-time at a bank. That's nice,
On paper.
I mean, if they say I'm working 40 hours, I mean, I can retire now, right?
Yeah.
I guess.
He also stressed in his testimony that he never intended to harm Kutxabank. And in case there were any doubters out there, he reminded the court that he'd paid the money back in an afternoon.
An afternoon.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that, how he's highlighting how easy it was for him, right?
Yeah. He continued to regale the court with self-congratulatory spiels like, thanks to myself and my team, Kutxabank was a masterpiece, and the mere suspicion that I could have personally caused damage to the bank disgusts me.
Oh, the
That's
gentleman.
how I imagine Mario's face.
Oh, the gentleman. You make it come alive,
He's the victim,
Jules.
right? He's the victim here, right? All right, so that was Mario's defense, right? So let's move on to Mikel. Mikel Cabieces. Mikel claimed that in 2012, after resigning from holding political office, he joined the law offices of Rafael Corta, Kutxabank's external labor advisor. He testified that it was Rafael Alcorta who contacted him and offered him a job for matters that related to Kutxabank at his law practice.
Okay, already some inconsistencies here, yeah. They didn't get together.
Yeah, he's like, I never talked to Mario. He said quote, he had every intention of returning to work as a labor lawyer after leaving the front lines of political activity, quote. So don't you just love how these guys keep using like war metaphors to refer to their time in politics?
Yeah, it's a
little hyperbolic, no?
Absolutely. I mean, by that time, ETA was barely active. So
yeah.
As if.
Yeah. So despite the fact that he'd not practiced law since 1990, he maintained that he was perfectly qualified for this advisory type of work. Okay. He vehemently denied that he has ever in his life been paid for doing nothing in exchange. Which, I find really hard to believe as a politician.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you did nothing in exchange.
Then you get a salary? Isn't that enough proof? Excuse me.
I mean, I don't know. Okay, so he insisted that he was paid for his work as a legal consultant to Kutxabank. Moreover, he claimed that he was completely unaware that Mario Fernandez had obtained a position for him at the bank. This was all news to him.
Oh.
It's all news to him because he never actually applied for such a position.
Oh. The plot thickens.
According to him, he just got a call from Rafael one day to say, hey, come work for me and I want you to be in charge of the Kutxabank.
And he said
stuff.
no?
And he took the job.
Oh.
It was like he was contacted.
Oh, right. Okay.
He had no idea that Mario had anything to do with this. Okay.
But he claims he did some work, I assume. It looks like. It
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
like. Uh-huh.
So he had no idea that it was Kutxabank who was paying his salary.
Oh,
around
really?
5,800 euros a
That's
month.
convenient.
Mm.
He
He thought it was the law firm that he was now working for,
Yeah.
that he was offered a job at. Okay?
Just in case you're not used to Europe, that's about the same as dollars. So it's like almost $6,000 per
month. Yeah.
Per month, yeah.
Now, as evidenced in court, at the time of Mikel's hiring, Kutxabank had suddenly increased its monthly payments to the offices of Rafael Corta in precisely that amount, the 5,800 a month. And it seems all of that was being paid directly to Mikel.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, like I just said.
Mm-hmm.
So he was questioned at trial about whether or not he actually worked for Alcorta's office, to which the prosecution found, that he went sporadically, quote, and without stating the frequency or volume and intensity of the work that he fulfilled for the law office.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They could not find any reports or meetings in the bank's records to show that he was ever advising Kutxabank at all. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So in my research, I never found that Mikel had produced any evidence in court to demonstrate that he did, in fact, provide any work for Kutxabank.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think, that
He
would
would
be
try.
his best defense in this case, is like, here's what I did.
Yeah.
These are the cases I tried, or these are the,
Yeah.
labor disputes
Meetings
that I
I
consulted
attended.
on. And
Something.
so it seems that he brought nothing to court
Yeah. Okay.
to show that he actually did work. He just basically just to take my word for it was his defense. Take my word for it that I did work. Okay, so we'll take a break here and then I'll continue with Mikel's testimony. Okay?
Let's do
Okay.
that.
All right, we're back.
We're back.
Okay. So we're going to continue here with Mikel's testimony in court. Mikel stood by his claims that he'd done nothing wrong, he had done his job, and that he felt victimized by these slanderous claims of corruption to benefit him financially at the expense of Kutxabank's assets. So he went on to lament the fact that in January of 2015, when these allegations came to light, that he was encouraged by party leaders to leave his political party, the PSE-EE, so the Basque Socialist Party, and the left-wing party of the Basque Party. Yeah. So in a statement at the time, the Euskadi Socialist Party explained that as these facts were known, or were found out, the General Secretary of the Basque Socialists, Idoia Mendia, asked Mikel Cabieces for clarification on the matter. After receiving, this is like from an article, right? So I'm reading this kind of like what was said. After receiving the appropriate explanations, the General Secretary and Cabieces himself have agreed to the latter's resignation from his position as Secretary of Institutional Reforms of the Executive Commission of Euskadi. In addition, Cabieces has requested his temporary dismissal as a party member so that no one can use this matter against the organization.
Sounds responsible for the party. I mean, yeah.
But wait for this, Douglas. You got to hold on to that chapella a little harder now.
Holding tight.
It wasn't only these accusations that the party leaders felt would invite negative attention to the party.
Oh.
In addition to the corruption and misappropriation charges being levied against him, Mikel was also going to be criminally charged by the popular accusation, headed by those labor unions, right, and other like social organizations, for collecting unemployment benefits from 2012 to 2013.
Oh.
Yeah. Can you believe this guy?
Like, I'm assuming
He's
he
a
was
real piece of
working at the
work.
same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and
So it was found during this year that he received 14,000 euros while drawing a combined salary of 110 euros a year from Kutxabank and Iberdrola.
110,000, you mean?
110,000.
Yeah.
What did I say? $110?
euros, yeah.
Yo, 110,000 euros from Kutxabank and Iberdrola,
Okay.
which
so
I suppose he was also working for,
Right.
in addition to his work, quote unquote, at Kutxabank.
We always think like the system would realize if we're getting a salary whilst we're getting employment benefit. It's funny how in, what was this, 2017 it wasn't working?
2012, 2013 is when he was collecting this unemployment.
More leeway for the automatic system not to be working, but come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
All right, so I'm going to go into what that was all about, okay? So in court, Mikel denied this claim and explained that he did request unemployment benefits after leaving his post as a government delegate in January of 2012. Because he was, in fact, unemployed at the time. He went on to say that he only received those benefits until March 1st of that year. Approximately like a month and a half. So,
according to him.
So it was in March that he registered in the special regime for self-employed workers to practice as a lawyer.
So basically he's self-employed from March.
So as a result of this new status, by registering as a self-employed worker, he claims that anything he received from March 1st on was not technically an unemployment benefit. Okay, so stay with me.
I'm a bit already...
No, okay. I'm going to explain. So when registering, he opted for what's called, quote, the capitalization of unemployment. So this is an option that allows those who are unemployed to become self-employed and to receive an INEM benefit. INEM stands for the National Employment Institute. Okay? This benefit would be identical to their Social Security contribution at the start of their new activity.
That's
right? So what you're being paid in unemployment, if you have to file for unemployment, it's your Social Security contribution that you're being paid, right?
Right. It's based on your previous salary.
Yeah. So whatever your unemployment benefit would be is what you would receive while you're getting on your feet as a free agent, right? In other words, he continued to receive the same monthly benefit, but it wasn't exactly considered unemployment. It was a benefit that I suppose is there to help those who are getting themselves set up, as a newly self-employed individual, right?
Yeah.
So he was being accused by the popular accusation of defrauding the Social Security system by collecting this benefit when he clearly wasn't struggling for an income.
Yeah, well, clearly not, no.
An allegation that Mikel found to be, quote, flatly false and slanderous.
Wow. I'm sorry.
Did you like my indignation?
Your indignation voice. It works.
He pointed out that this came about at a particularly convenient time for the popular accusation, as it was during elections. This came all about during an election period.
Yeah, you can't get away from those, can you?
Yeah. And where this could be like weaponized against his party.
Right, which is a good move. He left that party, PSOE, right?
So, just to summarize how much Mikel was earning in the year from March of 2012 to March of 2013, he got around 60,000 euros yearly from Kutxabank, about 40,000 euros from Iberdrola, and another 14,000 from his, quote, benefit from INEM.
Okay. We haven't really mentioned Iberdrola yet, have we?
No.
And that's an energy company.
Yeah. So, he was apparently working for them as well. Do you want to tell our listeners who they are and their...
Iberdrola is a really big electricity company. I was just checking it right now, and today it's considered the third biggest electricity company in the world, which is pretty big.
It is big, I knew that.
They own...
Didn't they merge with like a Scottish
Power is one of them. And they also have they merged with another company in East Coast US. It's New York and Philadelphia, I think. I forget the exact name of the company, but
there was a big merger and now they're pretty powerful.
Yeah, and they have a lot of companies in Latin America as well, which is how they get to be biggest country. And they're the second biggest producer of electricity with wind by market capitalization. So it's, they're earning the second most money from wind just after Denmark.
All right. So it seems, though, like in this trial, that the judge rejected the request of the prosecution offices, or more specifically, the popular accusation to expand the criminal investigation for alleged crime against Social Security. Okay.
So he rejected that. Yeah.
He rejected it, with the judge in this case. And if they wished, they could open specific proceedings in this matter at a different time to investigate it in depth. Which, as of today, I never found anything about if they ever did that for 14,000 euros.
They might not have.
Yeah, because this was in 2017, right? So since then, there haven't been which I looked for, like if there were any other stories about him being tried for this. And it doesn't seem like there was.
Yeah, I mean...
that they didn't pursue it.
Yeah, I think it's... If there was a case there, especially because he's...
And it's 14,000 euros.
A politician as well. But even if it was 14, people would pursue it if there were easy ways in to that case, right?
Yeah. If they had a good case. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't think... He must have covered his back that way.
Yeah.
I mean... For the 14,000, there's a few dozens more 1,000 euros that we have to justify here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point.
He got away with his unemployment benefit.
Yeah. Okay, so despite this being an issue they wanted to combine with the proceedings of the Kutxabank case, they were denied. The whole point of the popular accusations involvement in these proceedings was to ask the PNV, the Basque nationalists, the more conservative Basque nationalists, the PP, which is the Popular Party is what it's called, or translates to.
Right-wing party.
Right-wing party. And the PSE, the Basque Socialist Party, to, quote, stop favor agreements and revolving doors, as well as to, quote, end the Kutxabank privatization process. Okay, so that was their whole point of
the associations.
Wanting to accuse, wanting to proceed with this case, I guess, that they found that there was just too many favors being granted for these between banks and political parties and people within these parties to sit on boards of directors and stuff. And
it's interesting that they want to push it way further and actually stop the privatization, which is a very typical left-wing demand. Yeah. But, we can see there's a lot more politics coming into the conversation now. Yeah. Like, this is no longer about some thousands of euros. We don't want to privatize anymore. I'm just saying. They're political interests already. Yeah.
The spokespersons for the popular accusation wanted to demonstrate that Miquel Cabieces was not hired to provide any service at the bank, as he did not actually carry out much work as a lawyer for the office of the Alcorta firm. And any and all work that he did do, which proved to be minimal, was not necessary for Kutxabank. They have denounced both the liquidation of the Basque savings banks, so they're pretty mad about that, and the privatization of Kutxabank as a, quote, breeding ground for favorable treatment between these political parties that I mentioned.
It sounds like it.
So that people like Cabieces can hold positions as a member of the board of directors and then move on to the board of trustees and therefore make all these choices in the future. Okay?
And gain lots of salaries. Yeah. Very problematic.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the third defendant in this case, Rafael Alcorta, the guy that has the law firm, right? Okay. So he was being charged as an accomplice as in this whole debacle. Okay. So it has been established that at the beginning of 2012, Miquel Cabieces joined the law offices of Rafael Alcorta, who was Kutxabank's external labor advisor. At this time, Kutxabank increased its monthly pay to his offices to the tune of 5,800 euros, plus an additional 900 for travel expenses, all to be paid directly to this former delegate.
It's
right?
funny that
Miguel.
lawyers always need travel expenses.
Right.
Just a little joke here.
Alcorta testified that Kutxabank had, quote, imposed the hiring of Cabieces upon him, and describing his work as essential for his law firm.
Interesting. He couldn't demonstrate that, but he declared that.
This is what he said was told to him, right? They imposed it on him. Alcorta further detailed his interaction with Kutxabank, indicating that he'd had a conversation with the director of human resources at the bank, Fernando Lopez de Aguilas. He was saying that he had a conversation with him at the beginning of 2012. He was told that he was to hire Cabieces, and that this request was coming directly from the president of the bank, Mario Fernandez. He testified that the HR director said, quote, "This is the president's decision. You have a new collaborator." End quote.
Sounds like Basque politics. I believe the tone of the conversation for sure.
Let me tell you something. He went on to add that he was asked to increase his monthly invoice to the bank by about 5,000 euros to pay his salary. According to Alcorta, he felt, quote, perplexed by these interactions and frustrated, quote, by the imposition, because at the time of all this, he'd been unsuccessfully demanding a substantial increase in what the bank was paying him for his services.
My gosh. So you didn't give it to him, gave it some weirdo.
Some weirdo. Yes.
I mean, according to
He's
his
like,
point of
I've
view.
been wanting this money for a long time, and instead they give it to this weirdo. He claimed that his work... He claimed that his workload from Kutxabank had increased considerably following the recent merger of the three Basque savings banks. Because if you recall, the merger... Did I say something?
It sounded like murder. I'm just making
The
sure.
merger.
Yeah, merger.
The merger of the banks. The merger of the Kutxabanks.
Merger, darling. Merger.
The merger. So he claimed that his workload had increased following this... the merger between the three Kutxabanks, right? Which, if you recall, in 2012, this is when they imposed, they pushed Mikel on his law firm, like, here, hire this man. Right. This man's part of your law firm. But the merger happened in 2012 as well. Okay. So you can imagine that there was probably a lot of work, right? Yeah. For the labor lawyer.
Indeed.
Indeed. From that point on, and for the next 3 years, Cabieces worked with his firm as a collaborator in labor law for matters related to Kutxabank.
Collaborator was in air quotes, just for the listeners?
Yes. He also assured the court that Cabieces guaranteed him that he was perfectly qualified for the practice of labor law, and that although he had some problems with him, so it sounds like they had kind of a problematic relationship, him and Mikel.
I mean, it would be if he wasn't doing anything. And
he got pushed onto him. And he's like, I didn't actually want to hire you, but here you are.
It's funny how we're believing this. He's the only one with some slightly believable information. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. 140,000. Here you go.
Yeah.
He sounds like the only one that's making some sense so far out of the three.
He did say he had some problems with him, but later that the collaboration was, quote, fluid and correct. I don't know what that means.
We didn't talk. He got a salary.
That's from Google Translate. Fluid, very fluid and correct. That's why I put it in quotes. So it went smoothly and it was appropriate or whatever.
Appropriate. Yeah, it sounds good. Good translation, Joe.
Yeah. He went on to say that Mikel did have a good command of labor law, but when it came to judicial and legal practice, he was less qualified. So I guess like in the courtroom or maybe filings or I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
It sounded like you said he didn't have
he had a good
in court, right?
Yeah.
He never.
Right. He hadn't done it since like 1990. So when it came to that kind of stuff, he was not as qualified, right? Rafael went on to note that it seemed to him that Mikel had, quote, very interesting contacts within the bank.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. Furthermore, the increase that he was asked to invoice the bank wasn't a particularly striking amount. And at the time, it didn't raise any red flags for him.
Mm.
But when it came time to end this, quote, collaboration
Mm.
with Cabieces, or Miquel,
Mhm.
in 2014, the bank asked Rafael to invoice him for, I guess, what would be the severance pay
Okay.
for Cabieces, right? So,
He's apparently working for this law firm.
yeah. But then the contract that they wanted for Miquel was a 3-year thing,
Oh,
right?
okay.
I think that's what originally it started out as. Like, it's only going to be 3 years
Sure.
that we're going to give him this job.
Sure. I'm
Okay.
believing you.
Also, I'm making a lot of speculations at this point,
Okay.
having read all this,
Okay.
that I feel like they probably knew they could get away with it for 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, sort of thing.
Yeah, I got the
Like,
vibe.
let's do this for 3 years.
Yeah, I got that
And that's
vibe.
it. That's the only thing we're going to do for him. And then he can go
We can get
talk
away.
to his other connections and get another job somewhere else.
Yeah, we can get away with this for 3 years. It sounded like that.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm,
No.
mhm.
So when they contacted Alcorta or Rafael to end it, they also asked for like an increase in the payment or the invoice that was being sent to Kutxabank, like for the severance pay.
Okay.
Yeah. But Alcorta, when this happened, Alcorta warned the bank that he could only bill them for services provided. So what he could prove that the firm had provided to the bank, right?
He's on his. He knows what he's
Yeah.
doing.
He's a lawyer. And in the end, it appears as though this extra payout was never billed to the bank. Because he was like, no, I can't do that, right?
He was. Yeah. He was
So
responsible.
it looks like he didn't receive this extra pay that they were
Okay.
requesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially his defense in all this was that he was merely a passive participant in a third-party decision.
Interesting. I mean, it makes
He's just
sense
there,
from
yeah.
his point of view. The president of the bank would have taken that decision, and it sounds like believable.
Mm-hmm. So the testimonies of our 3 defendants made up the first 2 days of the trial.
Mm-hmm.
Other notable testimonies were provided by Fernando Lopez de Aguilas, the head of human resources at Kutxabank, who pressured Rafael to collaborate, quote unquote, by hiring Miquel Cabieces under the directive of Mario Fernandez.
Mm-hmm.
And Roberto Mol, who I mentioned earlier in the story, he was the director of the internal audit at Kutxabank. So he was the one that wrote the report that he gave to the new president, who then filed a complaint with the prosecutor's office. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're on the same page. Incredibly.
Yeah. So why don't we take a break before we get into the sentencing?
Let's do that.
Okay, so it was at the end of the trial in March of 2017. It was ruled that Miquel Cabieces was convicted. He would receive 1 year in prison and a 9,000 euro fine. Peanuts, right? As for Mario Fernandez and Rafael Corta, they each received a 6-month prison sentence and a fine of 4,500 euros each. Nothing. So Miquel and Fernandez were charged with the crime of, or they were not charged, but they were convicted of the crime of misappropriation of funds. And Alcorta was sentenced, convicted for being an accomplice in the misappropriation of funds. Okay. Miquel received the longer sentence as he was the one who profited from the whole exchange. And it had been proven to the court's satisfaction that he had provided no service to the bank. And no one from the entity controlled him, and he reported to no one at the bank, right? So that was proven in court.
Good to hear.
Yeah. As for Mario Fernandez's defense that he was motivated by the socio-political context that he was functioning under
Law.
and simply fulfilling a civic duty in his collaboration and hiring
As if.
Miquel, the court accepted this motivation, but it disagreed with the way that he went about finding him a job. The court argued that instead of trying to hire Cabieces or Miquel at the bank or at one of its affiliated companies, he used his influence to get him a job in another company and to instruct HR to increase the amount that the bank paid to that other company in order to provide him with an economic amount per month, right?
So we
this
heard about that.
backdoor antics that he pulled, the court was like, you know, like you could have done the same thing by hiring him legitimately.
Yeah, plus you
as
said
someone at the bank or give him like a reference for another job, right?
Yeah, plus you also said in this podcast that at some point he was like, oh, I was not concerned at all about his salary. And then he later, through some business, was saying, oh, make sure that salary is paid to him.
Yeah.
Through the law firm, right?
So
he is contradicting himself entirely there. And I guess that's...
Well, his defense was just that, like, I felt obliged to find him a job because these politicians called me and asked me to find him a job.
Yeah.
So he didn't actually find him a job at Kutxabank. What he did was put him in the company law firm. And then make that company pay him some money that Kutxabank was going to directly pay him.
Yeah, but his original statement that he wasn't concerned with the money doesn't make sense because he was making sure that he got paid, you know? Just saying. I'm trying to be the lawyer here. It's the only thing I caught out of them.
Okay, so in a quote from the sentencing, quote, he acted personally outside the entity and without involving it at any time, in an action completely unrelated to the ordinary activity of the bank.
It sounds like they just want to leave the bank alone, but sure.
No, they're saying he, as the man in charge of the bank, he didn't actually use the bank by hiring him to provide any services to the bank.
Right. But it's nice and convenient that the bank is sort of free of charge. You know, they didn't do anything wrong, the bank itself. The institution is privatized and clean and ready for investment.
At this point,
Okay.
Because he's now no longer in charge.
Yeah.
Right? If it had come about while he was in charge, it would probably be a different story, right?
Sure.
Or they probably would just take him down. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how they kind of draw a line between him and the institution of BBK.
Yeah.
It's amusing to me.
Yeah. So Fernandez, or Mario, also received the reduced sentence due to the fact that he fully returned the 247,000 euros that Mikel had received even before the filing of the lawsuit. So before any of this even was filed with the prosecution's office, he paid that off. So the ruling considers it proven that Fernandez acted with, quote, the intention of procuring an economic benefit for Cabieces, and that this occurred at the expense of the entity's assets.
Yes.
And with the instrumental participation of Alcorta's office. Right? So just basically, he went a really roundabout way to get this all paid to him. Alcorta's sentencing was also reduced as he was merely a collaborator and not, I guess, the mastermind of all this, you know?
Yeah.
So the ruling devoted several pages to justifying that Cabieces' services were completely unnecessary and to doubting the work that he carried out for Alcorta and the bank. It is emphasized that the financial institution had no need to have Cabieces and that the monthly expense incurred was absolutely unjustified from the point of view of business logic. That's end quote. In summary, it was financial aid and not a reinforcement for Kutxabank. So they didn't need him. The court ruling concluded with, quote, the intention to benefit and the correlative harm are evident, and the three defendants were aware of this. The court rejected, however, the prosecution's request to disqualify Cabieces and Alcorta from practicing law, as well as Fernandez from holding a position as administrator or board member of any other company.
So he can do it.
Yep, they both got to keep practicing law and stick to their...
That's why the word justice doesn't quite make sense
right?
here. Anyway.
The ruling noted that the required, quote, seriousness is not proven in the case of the former president of Kutxabank, although he, quote, overreached his duties.
Oh my gosh. Just a bunch
know,
of
right?
bunch of friends.
Bunch of other very powerful people were going, well, it's not that bad. As for Alcorta and Cabieces as lawyers, he considers that the, quote, enrichment on which the crime of misappropriation is based did not have to do with a certain professional performance or the breach of their duties as a lawyer.
I mean, I would argue against that. I mean,
right?
Yeah, of course. He, as a lawyer, you're
They
supposed
legally
to.
knew how they could go around and finagle this whole thing, right?
Yeah. You know, it's less uncomfortable than our first story where they judged there was not cruelty, where there was clearly cruelty.
Yeah.
And this is the same sort of box of things. It's like, you want to say that? Well, if you want to say that with your freaking excuses, say that. But we know it's not,
Yeah.
This guy should not be a lawyer for at least a few years.
Yeah.
Like at least.
Something. They should have some
5
sort of
years.
penalty. Yeah.
I'm going to say 5.
There should be,
2, 3 does not sound enough. Even if he was in jail, he has to have serious consequences where he's not going to earn these hundreds of thousands of dollars as a lawyer, daily. Yeah. And like, what lawyer is a lawyer that's been condemned
for breaking the
law is still going to be paid full, no problem, representing whatever firms he wants.
Get any job he wants. Yeah.
Anyway,
I know.
Me not happy. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. Furthermore, the court acquitted them of the crime of falsifying a commercial document. So this fraud count was in reference to some of the invoices that were provided by Alcorta's law firm. From what I've read, the accusation lacked the conciseness and precision in the account of the facts and could not be proven. So basically, they couldn't prove that the fraud took place.
Sure.
With these invoices, or in these invoices.
It's probably an invoice that said he gave us great advice on
he did
this
X amount of job.
And it was like a dinner.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting to the bottom of this. Yeah. We're almost there.
Yeah. So I searched forever to find out if any of these 3 men actually served any time in prison.
Right.
It was with the help of my friend and ex-student Gisela that she found that none of them went to prison.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So
this is information the news does not, they talk about,
They go over the court case.
Yeah, there's nothing more shocking to
Then there's never any mention about that they never actually went to prison.
What the F?
I know. You can say fuck.
Yeah.
This is an explicit podcast.
Just saying.
Yes, you can go ahead and say it. Let it out, Douglas.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Well, she also indicated why they didn't go to prison. So she informed me that a prison sentence is suspended if it's less than 2 years with certain conditions, such as being a first-time offender or satisfying civic liability. So
satisfying civic liability.
And which I imagine was the fine.
Okay, like as in they paid the liabilities we had.
Which was nothing. Oh, sorry. Which was nothing.
No, it's nothing. I mean,
Cabieces had to pay $9,000, and the other 2 had to pay $4,500.
Oh, as in
that was their fines.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, it's nothing.
So I don't know if that's what she meant by civic liability, but it sounds like it. No.
Yeah, I mean,
they've satisfied their civic liability or their civil liability, not civic, but civil liability.
Civil. Okay.
I don't know.
Throw words at us,
so
right?
I guess they'll be punished through their public shaming. Nobody's.
That's how they dominate us. They just create words. They throw it at us. We don't understand. And we're like, okay, well, I guess he satisfied his civil liability, even though he fucking raped her and killed her 3 times. Or whatever. Just saying.
Oh my God.
Seriously.
Yeah, so after
mixing cases.
Yeah.
I'm not implying anything on these very rich people that definitely could kill us.
So they had to pay some fines, which for them was like chump change. It was nothing.
4,000 euros for
nothing. For
9,000.
The guy wrote a check for $250,000 basically in one day. Like, here, have 250,000.
The interesting thing is, though, if he hadn't written that check, would he only be liable to pay the 9,000? That's the
Then it would probably be 9,000.
Right?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think that's
So he saved 4,500 euros by writing that check. And now he's probably kicking himself. He's like, fuck, if I had just not paid that.
not 45,000.
No, 4,500. Did I say 45,000?
I think it's 100.
His fine. No, okay.
40.
Fernandez was
Uh-huh.
given a smaller prison sentence, 6 months and 4,500 euros fine, because he had paid that check to make up for what Kutxabank had paid to Mikel, right? That's why they gave him the lower sentence.
Okay.
Right? So he's probably kicking himself because Mikel got a year in prison, which he never had to serve,
Yes.
and had to pay 9,000. So, he paid half of what Mikel paid.
Right.
But he's probably kicking himself because he's like, fuck, I never actually had to pay that 250,000
Exactly.
to the bank.
Yes.
If this was just going to be...
Exactly.
I could have just paid 9,000 like
that's
Mikel
what I'm
and
saying.
never actually have to serve a day in prison.
We were on the same page. I was
Okay.
just scared about names of people. But
Okay,
yes.
okay.
It's ridiculous.
Are you following, Megan? Were we on the same page? Mm-hmm. Okay.
We're on the same page, listeners, just for those listening in.
Oh, gosh. Okay. In the trial, Cabieces' defense alleged that his right to privacy had been violated.
Oh, my gosh.
When the court examined his bank accounts without his authorization and without the mandatory judicial authorization.
I mean, if they don't have a mandatory
So,
judicial authorization,
sure.
he knows the ins and
Sure,
outs.
he
and
sure does.
What is the freaking law, the court doing, not doing its judicial proper steps whilst investigating? I mean, also, right? Like, is he catching us on a legality that the actual court didn't do correctly?
He's like, counterattack.
How to get away with
So
anything.
the court decided to postpone the analysis of this allegation. So they didn't even address it at the time.
The allegation of...
that they had violated his privacy.
Ugh.
By examining his bank accounts.
He didn't even go to jail. Who cares?
Yeah. Mario Fernandez announced that he will appeal the ruling. In a statement, he shared his respect for the magistrate's decision, but that he will appeal, declaring, quote, I have a clear conscience. I am going to appeal because never, and this has been proven, have I acted in accordance with my own interests.
What? Never have I acted according to it?
In accordance with my own interests.
Never have I
acted. Like, it wasn't for his own benefit.
That doesn't make sense to me, though.
I
have never acted in
accordance with my own interests. I wasn't acting for my personal gain.
In that case, then.
Yeah.
He wasn't acting in that case, apparently. Okay.
He was saying never has he done that.
Well, that means he would never have lifted a fucking bowl of soup to his mouth because that's in his interest to survive.
Oh, okay.
Has he never acted in his own interests?
Well, maybe.
Has everybody just given
maybe
him soup?
He just meant in this case. In this case. He's talking about his own case. In this case.
Just saying.
Not in general, maybe.
I'm just saying. Freaking words.
Douglas is riled up.
If the only thing we have is words, I can only listen to words.
And these words are coming from Google Translate. I'm trying to quote him what he said.
Sure.
And so I'm trying to keep it as close.
I forgot that part now.
I'm trying to keep it as close to his quote, right? So that's how it was translated. Okay.
Sure. You're surprised that I'm angry, Joey?
No,
surely not.
Not at all. Okay, so he went on to say that the presumption of innocence has been violated and generated a situation of defenselessness. Instead of proving the alleged criminal acts, the defendants have had to prove their innocence. Right? He announced his goal of cleaning up his professional honor and insisting that his actions at the head of the bank were always, quote, legal and ethical, and in the defense of the entity's interests.
Bullshits. Bullshits. The court of law proved that you are guilty.
Yeah. But he's going to appeal.
Apparently.
And he did.
He did.
Yes, he did.
Did he
Okay.
win?
Well,
Fucking bastards.
no, he didn't, but that's a spoiler.
Okay.
So,
I still
this is
don't know
the
what
aftermath.
happens.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
we have an aftermath.
not everyone was happy with the sentences.
Okay. I'm not happy.
Like Douglas.
I feel
here.
this. I feel in the same
Is
boat.
outraged, as were other people.
Mm.
Okay. So, for example, E.H. Bildu,
Mm-hmm.
which is a left-wing nationalist and Basque independence party.
Yes, that's my people.
Okay, that's the party you...
Vote for usually
Okay.
when they let me. I'm only allowed to vote in municipal elections right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a situation for residents, not civilians, right? Or citizens, I should say. If we're not citizens, we can't vote nationally. We have
Exactly.
to vote locally, right?
Exactly.
Okay, we're allowed to vote locally.
I was confused by your wording. That's
Okay.
correct.
So, anyways, this party was disappointed with one aspect of the sentencing. In the aftermath, they felt that the sentence must have, quote, political consequences, since it shows that the Basque Nationalist Party, PNV, and the Basque Socialist Party, PSE, used Kutxabank and its capital to pay mutual political favors.
Yeah.
Unquote. The Abertzale coalition,
Yeah, the people,
which is a coalition of various left-leaning Basque nationalist and independence parties, including E.H. Bildu, has stressed that the appointment of Fernandez to preside over the bank was, quote, forged after a three-way agreement between the Basque Nationalist Party, PNV, and which is the conservative right-wing leaning Basque nationalist, and the PSE, the Basque Socialist Party, and the PP, which was the Popular Party, which is a conservative party or right-wing party.
Right-wing.
They went on to say that the former president of Kutxabank ordered the payments to Cabieces after requests from members within those three parties. E.H. Bildu could not understand why this sentence did not entail the assumption of political responsibility by the representatives of these three parties.
Agreed entirely.
Yeah.
Wonder why I won't vote for them.
Yeah. So, with respect to Mario Fernandez's appeal that you were wondering about.
We're all wondering about.
We're all wondering about. Everybody's on the edge of their seats at this point.
This appeal.
What happened? They didn't go to jail or anything. Okay, so in
Nah.
February of 2018, the Supreme Court has confirmed the sentence of 6 months in prison that was imposed in March of 2017 by the Vizcaya court's ruling for misappropriation. As a result, well, he never actually went to prison.
No.
Right?
But at least he was condemned to prison.
Yeah. They held up the conviction, right?
Good.
So as a result, Fernandez has resigned from the board of directors at Repsol, a position he'd held since 2011.
That's the oil company.
Yeah.
I don't know where
very
they
big oil
started.
company.
It's the biggest Spanish one that we know of.
Yeah.
I think.
Off the top of our heads.
Yeah, I mean, historically, I think it's the most important one. Like Shell in the Netherlands. Whether they're still the biggest or not, we don't know. But
So the oil company had decided not to demand his resignation until the sentence was final. So when the sentence was final, he had to resign.
last salary, my little friend.
Poor little Fernandez.
Wow.
Little Mario has to find another job. But he's probably like in his 70s now. So he's like, I'll just retire with all this cash.
Do you mean ready for presidency, like in other countries?
Yeah, he's gonna run for president. Fuck it, I'll run for president.
as long as I know not to vote for this guy,
It'll be fine.
It'll be cool. OMG.
None of this is a problem to run for president.
No.
As for Rafael Corta,
Mm.
he was in the news in June of 2022
Okay.
when his law firm, Alcorta and Associates, was absorbed through a merger
Mm-hmm.
by a much larger national and international law firm of Sargadoy, which you may have heard of, Sargadoy and Associates.
Yeah.
The offices that Alcorta held in Bilbao have become the newest branch of this bigwig law firm that
Interesting.
holds offices and sway all over the peninsula.
Interesting.
So our little accomplice Rafael is doing A-okay
It
after all this
sounds
mess.
like it.
He's fine.
Ah.
And then I couldn't find out much about what Miquel Cabieces is up to these days,
Mm.
but he's probably fine.
We're going to assume he's
Yeah, it's very fine.
sipping some much better wine than we are.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Send somebody else to pick it up.
Oh, for sure.
However, in one article from March of 2018, a municipal group called the Portugalujo Despierta, that's the name of the group, had presented a motion requesting the removal of his portrait, which hangs in the Assembly Hall of Portugalete's Town Hall.
Absolutely.
Which, if you'll recall, he was the mayor there from
Yeah.
1995 to 2008.
You mean disgraced mayor?
Yeah. That's what I shall refer to him as from now on. Oh, you mean Cabieces, the disgraced mayor of Portugalete. So the removal of the portrait was rejected by the votes cast by guess who? The Basque Socialist Party, the Popular Party,
Okay.
but PNV, the Basque Nationalist Party, abstained
Well done.
from voting.
Well done.
They indicated that they do not understand why the General Secretary of the Basque Socialist Party of Biscaya and the Mayor of Portugalete, Mikel Torres, decided to keep quiet about the cases of corruption linked to their party during the Kutxabank case. In addition, they've indicated they're deeply outraged by the abstentions by the PNV members because, quote, once again, they're looking for excuses not to position themselves clearly.
I agree with that. It's just that the thing is, if they had voted not to take his photo down, his painting down,
it would be a clear.
They're clearly taking sides,
yeah,
which is the wrong side. Let me just highlight here, and at least they're being neutral in the sense that, well, you know,
if we don't vote, then nobody can say went either way.
I mean, at least they're not on his freaking sides.
They just don't want to say. Yeah.
Whereas the unionist parties are very happy to cozy up to little corrupt boys. We can see, just highlighting from my personal point of view.
It's the most outraged he's ever been on this podcast.
Right?
All right, I'm going to finish it up with the spokesman for Portugalujo Despierta, John Medrano, considered it, quote, a tremendous exercise in cynicism that these parties refuse to position themselves against corruption when they have it in front of their noses.
Yeah, that's what I agree with.
So his portrait can still be seen there today.
That's what I agree with.
And there you go. That is the case of Kutxabank and Cabieces.
Yeah. There's only one thing in my head right now. Do you know all these people that are fighting for, like, nature and freaking paintings up?
Yeah.
I'll leave it in the listener's imagination what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Let's hope some young'uns who want to help politics become nicer.
Yeah.
Understand my message.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. It's that was very interesting, and now hopefully we know what people are talking about when they bring out this Cabieces guy.
If anybody brings it up, you'd be like, "Oh, I know all about that."
Yeah, finally.
We bid you
Agur.
Crimes of the Basque Lands is written and produced by
Douglas D. Carvalho,
Julie Garcia.
I'm Megan Dooley.
The sound and editing for each episode by
Douglas D. Carvalho,
I'm Megan Dooley.
Theme song written by
Douglas D. Carvalho,
Julie Garcia.
I'm Megan Dooley.
Sung by the choir with no name and produced by Tom Squires. Podcast art by Distinct Signal. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Crimes of the Basque Lands and contact us at crimesofthebasquelands@gmail.com with story ideas worldwide which have a connection to the Basque Country or any rave reviews. If you like our podcast, please subscribe, like, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time,
Agur.